problem that we're seeing happening where you have doctors overprescribing individuals with opioids. Is this changing based on more public awareness that we've seen with the opioids crisis?
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor to be here with David, but the overprescribing really does not occur anymore. You know, we know the story about Purdue Pharmaceutical and many others overprescribing, and by the way, military veterans were the population group that was most overprescribed because they had legitimate medical conditions that needed to be treated, which created unprecedented dependency and addiction. When we closed those pill mills down across this country, people turned at record number to heroin. And if you don't know that we got a problem at the southern border, you got your head in the sand, because these drugs are coming. They were being manufactured at one time from China with rogue chemists and then shipped over here either through the mail or across the border. And now we have fentanyl that's mixed in everything. And fentanyl is 100 times more potent than morphine, 50 times more potent than heroin, and there's carfentanil on the street that's 100 times more potent than fentanyl, or a microgram, not even enough to be visible to the human eye, is a lethal dose, and people are dying immediately in record numbers.
Now, you mentioned to Sheriff that while China was the one to first start producing the fentanyl, the Mexican drug cartels, they've been involved in creating fentanyl. They've learned the process. Tell us more about it.
So the Mexican cartel has learned the process. Normally, poppy fields and the cultivation of poppies took time and a lot of labor and a lot of energy. And what they've figured out now is they can synthetically process heroin in clandestine labs, or a fancy term for somebody's bathroom. They can mix it into drugs, send it across the border, and mix it in every single substance that you can find. It is absolutely horrifying to see the amount of people that we're reviving with Narcan, asking them, how long have you been doing heroin? And their response more often than not is, I don't do heroin. And I think it's important to say, if it happens to a billionaire's family, these are not people who are living under the overpass. These are people who are loved ones that are going to work, going to school, and have a loving family, 100% preventable, and that's what we need to do.
So, David, you all have also, in Victoria's Voice, been very involved from the policy perspective, really changing policy in America to help deal with this drug crisis. Tell us about the CARE Act.
Well, I went to Washington and I got the CARE Act passed in Congress. It's the largest drug bill ever passed. It was signed by President Obama 5 years ago, and it provides Narcan to every first responder, police department, sheriff's department in the country. It gave $1 billion to it also talks about education and rehab and several different parts of the bill, but the biggest part was the Narcan. And so I've been politicking to get laws changed. Like every time a drugstore gives out a prescription, they should throw a Narcan in with it. And it should be in everyone's medicine cabinet.
So, and one of the interesting things is with these bills, they're bipartisan. It's one of the few areas where you will find Democrats and Republicans coming together, right?
This is not a political thing. This is the entire country should be behind it. Enough fentanyl has come across our border in the last year that could kill every man, woman, and child in this country 10 times over. And nobody's talking about it. We got to get this everyday conversation, not just when we have panels but this should be people should be educated on the drug problem. I mean, we're losing our entire next generation. We're losing our future Bill Gates and Steve Jobs
and David Siegels of our
losing the cure. Probably losing the cure for cancer. We're losing music we'll never hear, and movies we'll never see, and books we'll never read. So it's not just, I used to think that drug addicts just lived under bridges and slept in parks, but this is every walk of life, and we're not doing enough about it. 500 people died today from a drug overdose. 500 people.
Sheriff, let me ask you, I mean, these statistics are startling, they're shocking. You know, do you find that since the COVID pandemic, with all the mental health issues, especially that our young people have had to suffer because of the lockdowns, because of the isolation, has that made the problem worse in what you've seen in your experience?
Yeah. Unquestionably, the unintended consequences of the COVID-19 and sheltering in place and wearing masks have led to unprecedented turn towards substance of choice and mental health conditions. There's no doubt about it. Think about a youth that started in a COVID environment at 15, who is now 18, but going off in the world to college and doing all of these things, but has the social development mindset, the cognitive ability of a 15-year-old. So this is why the numbers are skyrocketing. It is not only incredibly important to get people clean, the help that they need, but it's equally important to charge these drug dealers with murder when they're dealing deadly doses of narcotics on the streets.
Yes.
We have to charge them with murder.
David, I want to get your final thoughts in terms of what message do you want to leave our CPAC audience? What do you want them to know about what Victoria Voice is doing? You're starting these Victoria clubs as well across the country where you're educating teenagers of the dangers of this. I mean, really for them to understand what if they need help, where do they go? If their teenager or their parent or their spouse is in trouble, how do they get help?
Well, the first thing they need to know is their child using drugs or not? And that goes from marijuana on up. That everyone starts with marijuana, and even though marijuana won't kill you, it's a gateway drug to cocaine and meth and crack and heroin. And we need to stop legalizing it, and although most states have now not only legalized medical marijuana is okay, but all the kids here is marijuana is legal.
Right.
They don't distinguish between them, and they start with marijuana, and then they get a high, and after a while they want a higher high, and then eventually they go from marijuana to other drugs. But no one starts with heroin; they end up with heroin, and you need to, if you have teenagers from 13 to 22, of course, 22 is not teenage, but any children in that age group, you must make sure that they're not using drugs. And if they are, you need to try to talk to them and educate them and not just ignore it. Victoria's Voice, he's well educated on what to look for. But people don't know. I mean,